Welcome, everybody, to the second webinar of the series Women Behind the Drone Revolution, organized by DroneTalks.online. DroneTalks is an online platform to spread ideas and to educate in the drone ecosystem. DroneTalks provides virtual interactive learning opportunities and online educational content for people from every discipline and culture who seek a deeper understanding of the drone ecosystem. After the fantastic success of the first webinar, Women Behind the Drone Revolution, organized in the occasion of the International Women's Day, DroneTalks.online made a bold decision: transform the single event into a series of webinars to meet, learn, and get inspired by the drone ecosystem's most influential women. Today, I have the pleasure to moderate a panel with three friends. Let's give them a warm welcome. Alexandra Florin, the Aviation Technical Standard Manager at Wing. Welcome, Alex. Francine Zimmermann, co-lead of the Innovation and Digitalization Unit at Swiss FOCA. Hi, Francine. And Jackie Dujmovic, founder and CEO of Hover UAV. Hi, Jackie. As usual for this webinar series, we have asked each of the speakers to talk about themselves a little bit for a few minutes in order to set the scenes and break the ice. After their introductions, we'll go straight to the Q&A sessions, where all of you will have the possibility to engage with the speakers. Please ask your questions via the Q&A, and I'll do my best to ensure that all will be answered. So without further ado, I think we can start. Let's begin with Alexandra. And Alex, I think the floor is yours.
Hey, hi everyone, and thanks Lorenzo, thanks DroneTalks for the invitation to this webinar. I thought I would talk a little bit about my journey to the drone industry, although it's quite traditional, as you will see. I will start by saying I'm an aeronautical engineer, and I started my career in traditional aircraft business industry, and after 10 years, I joined EASA, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, and I really didn't start immediately to work on drones. I was first a DOE team leader for a couple of months and a traditional safety development assurance expert. And then I remember one day, I remember it because we went to the Christmas market, so it was December, and I think 2014. I was called in a meeting to try to reconcile some guys which were fighting. There was the traditional safety guys which were fighting a new approach to safety to be applicable actually on drones. And thinking of it, honestly, I don't really remember what was really the issue, because I think I integrated everything in between. But I was caught, and the year after I joined Gyrus, I started on AMC, very traditional stuff, but a year later, we started the SORA, the Specific Operation Risk Assessment. I'm very proud to have been part of the first meeting. I still remember where it was, how the SORA and the SAIL concept were created, where the acronym is coming from. And wow, what a journey. A few years later, EASA and the Commission have recognized, or they have introduced an operation-centric regulation. They have recognized the SORA as an AMC, and I decided to go full with drones. Patrick, the director of EASA, was looking for a drone project manager at the time. I applied. He didn't know me. I went and told him, stop looking, this job is for me. And the last 2 years at EASA, I was leading all the drone-related activities. And after a while, I knew I always wanted to go back to the industry. And again, here I was. I resigned from EASA 3 months before the beginning of the pandemic. But I did a break, and then I followed my instinct. And I'm very happy to have joined Wing in 2020. In September 2020, sorry. And as you mentioned, Lorenzo, I'm the Aviation Technical Standard Manager. In practice, it means that I'm working on developing the strategic regulatory policies, and I'm working on plenty of various topics, and I love it. Detect and avoid BVLAS, UTM, use case, of course, autonomy, security, software development assurance, and so on and so on. And I'm involved, obviously, on most of the industry standards across the world. So ASTM, RTCA, RTCA 228, 147. And I'm co-leading UK 105 since February with my colleague Maurizio, and it's working like a charm. We are very complementary. And a lot of things to be done, but this is where we are today. And I will be happy to answer any questions related to what Wing is doing, if people are interested, or more generally on standardization activities.
Excellent, Alex. Thank you very much for the intro. Very interesting. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions for you. And I think next is Francine. Can you please introduce yourself, Francine? Thanks.
Thanks, Lorenzo. So welcome to everybody. Also from my side. So I have a less traditional story, how my journey started in aviation. So it was about 6 years ago, a little bit more. So it was a Monday evening, and in November 2014, I will always remember. And I was on the platform waiting for the train to go home when I ran into a colleague that I hadn't seen a long time. And I knew he was working for FOCA. And by coincidence, just a few days before, I went with my team. At that time, I was working with the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs. So I went to visit the company Pilatus Aircraft that some of you may know. And we had really an amazing visit, a great insight in the company. So we were able to go near to the aircraft and watch people working. Was really amazing. So I mentioned this to this colleague, the visit, and he told me, you like aircraft, so you should come to FOCA. We have an open position in our team. It was just published last week. And then he showed me on his smartphone the job description. And I applied, I got the job, and a couple of months later, I started at FOCA. So I started actually to work in legal and international affairs. And there I was leading the coordination and the representation of Swiss interests in the field of civil aviation safety. Together with a colleague named Marcel, some of you may know him. I need to mention him because he has a key role in my journey in aviation. So in that role, I was supporting the development and of international strategy as well as rulemaking. So I was mainly dealing with manned aviation, but it was also the time when EASA, the European Union Agency for Safety, Aviation Safety Agency, they launched the very first consultation on a regulatory framework for the operation of drones. So it was an ANPA, so an advanced notice of proposed amendment, so very first set of rules. And in my position at that time, I had also to coordinate FOCA's official position for everything related to rulemaking. So basically, I was getting input from my experts. I had to understand those input, obviously, and then to prepare an official position and then to file it to EASA in my name. So I spent many hours with the two engineers, and one of both was you, Lorenzo, and the other Marcus, that gave me the input to answer to this consultation. And already there, my interest was quite big. And around the same time, my colleague Marcel came to me and told me, look, in 2 weeks, there are two main events that we need to cover. One is in Bern and is with the helicopter community, and the other one is in Stockholm and it's about drones. So can you help me? And we should cover both of them. And I was telling myself, I would love to go to Stockholm because obviously it's much more interesting, right? Drones than helicopter in Bern. But I told him, let's flip a coin. And then he say, no, you can do the cool stuff. So go to Stockholm and we'll take care of the helicopter event. It will be anyway like Swiss German people mainly coming there. So you can go to Stockholm. So I went to Stockholm to this drone event, and I discovered a new world, and I knew I wanted to be part of it. Why? Because of all the unknown, because of all the room for creation. It was really a major opportunity to write a page of history in this revolution of aviation, of the mobility. I mean, unlike at FOCA, we obviously have a very traditional office, and we have people they have like 20 years experience in aviation. So I was always the one who didn't know anything, you know, and always going to expert from experts telling me about how it should work. But I really saw in that small world within aviation, I mean, nobody had a clue how it should look like in the future. So everybody was sitting at the table with a blank sheet and let's think, let's put our heads together, our brain together, and write something. Yeah, so that was really very appealing to me. And then 3 years later, thanks to the support of the Minister of Transport, who realized that the new technology were very important, and that importance will increase. FOCA got additional resources to deal with drone and new technologies. And here I had the opportunity, together also with Marcel that mentioned, you, Lorenzo, and another colleague, to help actually building a new unit dedicated to emerging technologies and innovation within FOCA, because before that we didn't have anything. So we started only 4 people, and today we are a team of 15 people, very diverse. So yeah, I'm very, very glad to the team that we have. And actually it's in my current role, and also thanks to my amazing team, that I realized that Switzerland has really a great potential to develop technologies that will make aviation more sustainable in the future. So that realization, I mean, brings me already to the next chapter. And starting this summer, I will co-lead the aviation policy and strategy division at FOCA, again together with my colleague Marcel. It's more fun to do things together, right? So this is really the key within FOCA. This is the key division to contribute making aviation more sustainable. And here I see already many synergy between my current job and this future function. So I'm really looking forward to take the best of both and then to put everything together. That will be it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Excellent story again, and I think again full of inspiration for questions and exploration. Right? Thank you. And Jackie, what about you?
Unmute myself. I guess I started out with a little bit of a different career path. So I did 12 years at sea, so cruising the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, the South Pacific on super and mega yachts. It was when I actually was pregnant, I decided that it was time to move back to Australia, and I knew I needed to start a new career. So at that time, I looked into many different options for me for my second career, and one of them was the drone technology. I'd always seen what it could do, especially linking back to that maritime that I had in my bones. So I was quite nervous about starting my own business, but I started my own business. At first, we tried to do absolutely everything. I'm like, we can do photography and survey, and we can do so much with drones. And it was probably a few months in, I really, after speaking to many business advisors, they sort of advised me to continue on with my passion and connect maritime and drones together. So we were quite successful in doing that, and we're involved with many of the first government shark trial and shark mitigation strategies. So we started using drones to see if we could spot any hazardous sharks like the great white shark or bull sharks in Australia, and using drones. So, and in that time, I invented many products, including the shark alarm and also some of the life raft drops that you see sort of around as well. We're also involved with many whale projects, so going to collect that whale snot, so flying in when the whales exhale to collect that DNA. It was during those projects I got to work with so many amazing companies, entrepreneurs, inventors, that I really started to see that the blockage for drones becoming an everyday tool was that regulatory side, or helping them come up with a sustainable model for their future. So I adapted the company to go down that way. So what we do mostly now is help people move their drone programs forward. So they come to me, they go, we want to fly beyond visual line of sight, or we want to work with highly automated drone in the box programs. So we develop their safety cases, a lot of their procedures, their training that they're going to require, and all the information that they're going to need to actually move their drone program further. So that's where we sit in Australia.
Thank you. This is also very cool, and as you mentioned, not traditional approach to to the aviation world. So again, very interesting to explore. So I think I'll ask Alex and Francine also to switch on their cameras so we can have a nice chat all together. And yes, let's see. Yeah, there you are. Excellent. Good. So, I mean, thank you very much again for your intro. And I'll start with a few questions of mine. And again, to break the ice of the questions. And for the participants, again, feel free to ask questions into a Q&A. And I'll transmit those questions again and try to get the conversation going. So, I mean, the first question I have is for Alexandra, because I think you, Alex, you kind of did, a industry transition somehow, right? And in the authority, especially you were in EASA, and you played somehow a crucial role, I would say, into the introduction of the specific category in Europe, and somehow, at least in Europe, the category in which the most of the exciting stuff is going on, right? I mean, of course, we have the open category, which you all love, but the specific category is very interesting. And I was wondering whether you wanted to share with us how hard it was, or how was your journey inside the EASA? Can you give us like some behind the scenes of what you had to do? Because again, we are breaking, somehow an established environment, and we all know how difficult that is, right? So maybe you wanna tell us a couple of stories about that.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I think that when I entered EASA, I knew that I will always come back to the industry, because I still remember on my first position, which was not drone related, my boss was giving me assignment, and he was passing by my office and telling me, I sent you an email, and say, oh yeah, I've already answered. And my boss was telling me, hey, it's EASA here, slow down, you don't need to hurry up, and you can answer to me in a week. And obviously I'm not like this. And I think that during 9 years, there were people telling me, you need to slow down, you go too quick, you push too quick. So yeah, it's an administration. It's not always easy, but there's a lot of good people as well. And I think it's like everywhere. I mean, if we are coming back, why I entered the drone, because I believe that in aviation, it's still a revolution. Everything's changing. It's a complete change, and this change needs to be managed like any change through change management. And how do you conduct change management? You need to spend time explaining, educating, convincing, and so on. So the journey was really to try to get people understand what all those new people, the tech industry was willing to do. I think what was really helpful was Gyrus. From my point of view, this was really of a great help, because Gyrus it's a international regulators meeting and trying to tackle topics which were not tackled otherwise. And it's how I think at EASA level, we have really reused a lot of concepts coming from Gyrus, the operation-centric regulation, the AMC, the SORA, and so on and so on. But I think really the added value from Gyrus was to invite some key players from the industry, and to really start the discussion between regulators and the industry. And I think this is fundamental. And I still believe that working hand in hand, understanding each other, the tech industry, explaining to regulators what's really happening, where the industry wants to go, and having regulators taking really the time, not being in a certification exercise, but being open-minded and just listening and trying to find solutions for all this new commerce coming with some great ideas. This was really working. So I think this public-private partnership through Gyrus or through research program, I truly believe that this is what still needs to be done, because In Europe, I think I'm very proud of what the Commission, EASA did, the operation-centric regulations, the use space, and so on. I mean, I think that there are some other regions in the world which could get inspired, but it's not the end of the journey. There's still so many things to do. And I still believe that it's really necessary to keep this link between regulators and the industry and to keep on listening to each other, learn from each other, and trying to find solutions together.
Thanks. And I think this is it made me think about, Jackie's journey and, the fact that you mentioned, Jackie, I stepped into this industry, I wanted to work with drones, and I started to do some drone programs, like shark monitoring and all of that. And then I was slowly pulled into the direction, hey, there is a lot of people out there that need help in their interactions with the regulators somehow, right? And what Alexandra was saying is not only in their interaction in terms of rule making or policy, but also like in getting the approvals, right? In the past, I guess, the aviation system was more rigid. These are the rules, follow the rules and you're going to fly. But now it's more complicated because I guess the regulators themselves don't have all the answers, right? And so there comes like at the time of a dialogue between these different partners. And I was wondering, what's your experience with that? I mean, I know you have the Australian regulators, some of them are my friends, and I think everybody else is friends here. But I'm just wondering, how was your experience with dealing with the regulators as a newcomer into the industry that you mentioned you were?
Look, I think it was the approach we took as well, just to work with them, and they're learning as well. I mean, every time they think they get on top of something, a new company comes into Australia with all of these new ideas, or pushing further boundaries, or larger RPA, or flying further, or wanting to get a higher sales score and things like that. But having that framework, definitely working with the Australian regulator is amazing. We've actually got a great structure for becoming commercial operators in Australia. And we were lucky enough that they did follow that Jarasora methodology for some of the complex operational, including beyond visual line of sight. So it gives people like myself that work in sort of consulting companies and helping other companies, gives us a framework to sort of develop those safety cases. And also the opportunity to push those boundaries to say, oh, well, we actually think and how we, obviously it's just a guideline, to keep everything safe.
Thanks. And I think this is a perfect segue. I wanted to ask this question to Francine since a long time. So now I finally get to ask it. Francine, the point is you are always very modest, but in your future career kind of stands you when you say, I'm going to take, charge of the strategy and policy division at FOCA. I always say, like, you probably become the most influential and important woman in aviation in Switzerland, right? That position is hardcore important in this ecosystem. And what I think is super fascinating is that you come from this innovation environment, the one that Alexandra described, made of interactions with, public and private partnership. In Switzerland, you have the Swiss use space implementation is an example of that, And Jackie mentioned, the regulator trying to be proactive, trying to learn and whatever. But this is very true in an unmanned aviation environment, right? But in the more traditional or vintage aviation, this is less applicable, if you want. So one of the challenges I think I would really like to understand from you how you intend to tackle is that in your new position, you will be somehow responsible for the whole thing, not only unmanned, right? You will be responsible also for manned aviation policy and rulemaking. And I'm very curious to understand how you plan to kind of leak this unmanned aviation approach and attitude towards the manned aviation one. And how do you see that going forward? Because the reason why I'm asking, just to be honest, is because I think the manned aviation can benefit a lot from that, right? So, but if done in the right way.
Yeah, thank you, Lorenzo. That's a very good question and also a difficult one. So totally agree with you. I think that the more traditional aviation, the manned aviation can benefit a lot from what we do in unmanned one. What I will start with is really to all the things that I did for unmanned aviation, like a stakeholder mapping, really engage with industry, engage with all the key stakeholders, that I will apply as well. I will start with this in my new function, because this is something that is lacking in my view. So we have the traditional stakeholder that we have, like the airport, the ENSP, and so on. But I'm sure there are many other players that should play a role, especially in the future. I mentioned before the sustainability. So we will need to tackle all this challenge with sustainability, technological change, impact of the COVID crisis. I mean, all of these subjects are some of the challenges that I will tackle in my new role. So I will really try to take the best of what I learned the last couple of years and apply it to my new function. I think it's how I will start. I don't know if it's answering your question.
Yes, I mean, in a diplomatic way, but we come back to it. Thank you very much, Francine. Thank you. I'm looking at the Q&A, and I think there are questions that I really like them. So I think I would like to start with the question from Julia Sanchez. Ciao, Julia. We all know Julia from your amazing efforts in Eurocontrol and in JAROS, you know. And you are asking, like, how can women make an impact in this drone community? She's asking, better getting involved in the industry side or working more in an institutional organization and agencies? I think this is the perfect panel to answer this question. So I would like to ask the same question to all three of you, because you can somehow cover the whole spectrum. So maybe let's start with Jackie, and we go. What do you think, Jackie, about this?
Keep doing what we're all doing, I guess. It's sort of our job. So share the stories of how we did that, and hopefully it encourages other women to join the industry. There's something that I'm trying in my organization. We're growing quite rapidly. Well, still a small company, but we've got 25 staff now, and it started as just me. And we're sitting on nearly 50-50. What I also try to do is give the opportunities for the other sort of the females to have those opportunities to present and talk and join working groups, and even regulatory working groups or industry body working groups, and try to encourage that so they can make an impact. We also do a lot in the school programs. So we mentor, many of our team mentor young females from around the world, and we also go into schools and talk about drone careers, and I guess just a lot about the industry as well. They're probably my suggestions how we can make an impact.
Thanks. Alex, what do you think? You've been on both sides. Where can you make a biggest impact?
I think it doesn't really matter. I think that, it's important. I really appreciate this kind of event, because I think that just showing that there are already women doing the job and talking about it and giving us the opportunity to talk about how good and great we are at our job. I hope it's going to inspire people. I will say that helping women to go a little bit beyond their comfort zone. I think that most of women, and me included, or at least I'm going to talk about myself, I've got a lot of fears, and it's difficult to go outside of your comfort zone. So I think that just pushing a little bit people and women to do a bit more, to present more, to apply. I mean, my biggest advice would be, if you're a woman, stop trying to be perfect. Stop waiting to tick all the boxes on a job application. You want to do something, go for it. Knife between the teeth. You have your heading, and just apply. And don't wait to just tick all the boxes. I think this is very feminine, and we need to stop doing this. This would be my advice.
Francine.
So I think the site doesn't matter. What matters is what you do in the position you are. You mentioned before, Suzy, the Swiss Use Space implementation. So Suzy is a public-private partnership that we launched at FOCA end of 2018. So again, we knew that at some point we will have like a UTM, use space regulation, but we knew it will take time, obviously, with all the European colleague, member states, a lot of discussion to do. And we said, okay, what's the best? So the best is to know a little bit like the reality. I mean, how does it look like in reality before to try to write new rules? So we launched that private-public partnership, and together with our ANSP, and I think today we have about 30 industry players, among them also Wing, not to just to mention one of them because Alex is here. And it is really the idea to work with the industry towards establishing a digital infrastructure that will make it possible to fully integrate drones into manned airspace. So the goal of this partnership is really to identify, to quantify, and to develop and implement UTM, use space capabilities and technologies in Switzerland and also beyond. So here it's one of the examples that, I mean, I am on the side of the regulator. Of course, there are some advantage because, I mean, we were speaking about authorization before. You get it from the regulator. But I think on the side of the industry, there is a lot of advantage as well. You are much more agile. You don't have a structure that is usually quite traditional, obviously working for the government. So to me, what matters is really what you do in the position you are. And I think the key is really to work together, to work hand in hand together. And especially in an industry like drones, which is quite new, we need to work together. Otherwise, we won't achieve a common role. A common goal. So yeah, that doesn't matter. Pick the side you prefer, or maybe you can change. I cannot speak from the industry. I worked my whole life at the government, so I have no experience on the other side. But I think the side is not that important.
Thank you, Francine. And I was reading the questions, and thanks to the audience for getting engaged. And I think I wanted to mix a little bit two of the questions, one from Santiago Lucia, ciao Santi, and one from Julie Zabrocka, and somehow cover the same aspect. It is related to the fact that, you know, we know aviation is traditionally a male-oriented industry, and for various reasons, and we're not going to go now and investigate too much there, right? But I think the question they are asking is like, now that we have like this unmanned drone aviation, we are almost starting from a blank sheet. Like we can do it, build it diverse, and we can build it with the right approach in our minds. What can we do to actually not make the same mistakes that were made in the past, right? In the hiring process, for example, or other systems that we can put in place. What do you think? Maybe I'll start with Francine, because I mean, I had the honor and the privilege to share a team with you, Francine, until a few months ago, right? And you know, go through growing a team from 2 to 15. And then same question, I'm gonna go to Jackie, like building a company from 0 to 25 employees, right? How did you account for the need of diversity? Was it something that you had to, I don't know, force into your processes, or did it come just natural due to the fact that this industry is different? How would you go about that? Francine, maybe let's start with you and then Jackie.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah, so from my experience, but I mean, it came naturally. So we always picked up the person that we thought was the best fit. But I must explain a little bit more here, because in the hiring process, it was quite unconventional. I mentioned that I had this opportunity to build the unit with 3 colleagues, so Lorenzo, Marcus, and Marcel. So we were already 4 people, plus somebody from HR. So at all the interview, we were 5 people. And we knew that the 4 of us, usually when we agree on something, I mean, there was many times, many situations where we already agree on everything, and very few where we disagree. So we always knew if we disagree on something, we need to discuss, because it should be further discussed, because obviously there is something there. So this hiring process was quite maybe for the candidates was not that easy, because 5 people, and at that time it was all in real, not with the video. So, but we are quite diverse, the team that was hiring. So I guess we also looked for diversity, but to me it came quite naturally. And today we have actually a team. We have half. I think we are 8 women and 7 men, if I call it correctly. and we also have like 4 different mother tongue. So we are very diverse, and also from the background, we have like IT background, engineering background, communication background, lawyer, economical background. So it came naturally, but I think it came with the topic that is quite different as it was asked in the question.
Excellent. And you, Jackie?
Like Francine, we hire for the best, whoever's the best going to be at that position. Where our challenge was making sure that we had the females apply for the jobs. So that's where I spent a lot of time working on, like, how do we advertise? Like, how do we portray our company? Do we put some of our women on our social media posts? Like, how do we portray that we have a very inclusive environment? Where do we advertise? So there is, because I often get asked by lots of male-led companies, well, how do you actually get so many females? But there's so many different groups out there that it takes 2 seconds to pop your job advert out on those pages and things like that, which helps create me to get at least 50-50 to come through the interview process, which gives me a 50% chance of hiring a female. So it's really on focusing on how we put those job adverts out and creating the company that we want to portray. We want to show that we're a diverse company.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I love the answer. We hire for the best. That's I think it's the right answer through this question at all. Very, very good. Thank you. Let's make a little bit of a shift. We're speaking now about, inclusion, diversity, and all of that. But again, after all, this is a woman in the drone revolution, right? So people want to also know a little bit about drones. And I think there is a nice question from Sakshi Nanda, which is lateral to a lot of, and I like when it's like this, lateral to a lot of our ecosystem thinking, which is like, I would like to know which ways in which drones can be used for neighborhood development, urban design, and thermography, like very technical, but I like that. It would be great if you can share some resources that integrate drone and city planning. Now, it's a difficult one, but one of the curiosity, maybe Alex, I would like to ask you, you now work for Wing, right? And Wing is all about urban delivery of goods. And I'm sure that this kind of conversations, like how do I integrate my product and my operation into a city, and how will city planning, have to change because of that? Can you share maybe some insight of the conversation that you are hearing at Wing?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a great question, and it's a very important one. What we are doing at Wing is that we are very close from the community. We really talk and listen to what people need. People often ask me, okay, so what do you deliver? I say, I don't know. It's not to me to decide what needs to be delivered. Tell me what needs to be delivered. And the products we are delivering, we're in 3 continents, so Australia, US, and in Europe, in Finland. They are very diverse because the communities are really diverse. But it's true that we didn't arrive and started our operations like this. We first listened to communities, discussed with them, but we had as well strong links with mayors and people who really wanted to try it out for their own cities. And I think it cannot, I think it's part of, we need to make sure that when we introduce new technologies, that they answer a need and that it's completely integrated in the new life of people. And so far, as we did some survey, especially in Virginia recently. The reception of the public is incredible because they love it and they are using more and more. And I don't know if people, I'm giving the other example in Australia. Last year we made 20,000 commercial delivery. We have already reached those numbers in April, and it's growing and growing, and the community wants it more and more. So, but it's not, we are not imposing things. Again, we are very close from communities and cities and trying to understand what is their need. So I think it's an essential element as it's close work between people in charge of developing cities and companies like us.
Thanks. That's interesting because it's a matter of including of partners which are typically not right in the conversation inside aviation, city planners or architects. They're not typically included in any traditional aviation conversation other than airports, of course, and proximity to airports, right? But here it's someone you're speaking, it's almost more local conversation. I need to go to the council, I need to go to the mayors, I need to go to the people that are there and have really an interaction and show and explain and listen to what they have to say and somehow craft the operation together, right? This is it's a very, very interesting, I guess also time consuming if I'm thinking about an industry like wind. There must be a lot of effort put into that, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I think that one of the biggest challenge would be really for, and it's not the case for wing, but air taxi communities, because you will need to have places in the city to land. At wing, we are having our own facilities where aircraft are taking off and landing, and they are never landing anywhere else. All the operation is, we're always hovering and there is no contact with the aircraft. And so this is not really a challenge, but when you start transporting passengers in the city and when you want to really optimize the transport and not only rely on air taxi, but to link it to other transports in a city, you need to discuss with cities in order to decide what's the most efficient way to transport people in the future and really integrate this new dimension in cities.
Yep, it's when you mentioned that, I was thinking about again Francine and aviation infrastructure is one of the things that you're gonna end up also managing, right, for FOCA. And this is a great example I was referring to before, like the idea that now suddenly it's not anymore about creating an airport, map and make people around agree, but it's now about I have infrastructure inside the city, from charging stations to takeoff and landing pods for small drones, all the way to little vertiports or bigger vertiports inside the city. So I think like the entire aviation infrastructure paradigm is going to have to change, right? How do you see that? Have you already started to think about how you're going to change it in Switzerland or not yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So that I think will be one of the big challenge, especially because right before the COVID crisis, we were still discussing in Switzerland about how can we increase capacity for our three national airports. It was that discussion. So we had that discussion. How can we have more flights? How can we maybe have an additional runway and so on? And then we had COVID and everything stopped, or pretty much everything. So now, obviously, maybe COVID in that way is helping us a little bit because, I think it was really a really hard reality check for the whole aviation world, and we will start. We already have some meeting this in June with the airport. So this is one of the first things that we will want to tackle with them. How do they see the future? Obviously, it's not increasing capacity. It's change for the better. Use the infrastructure that we have for other needs, like you mentioned for UAM. So I think that would be one of the big one. I have a lot of respect, I must say, for that challenge because airport having investment, they have a lot of investment in the maybe since a lot of year. They have expectation. They also want that the aviation will start again how it was back in 2019, I would say. But here I think we really need to together the regulator and the airport and all the other people involved in the discussion, also regional airport in Switzerland, to see how we can have a common way forward in the future and make the best of those infrastructure. We for instance have the airport also in Bern, a very small airport that is today not used anymore, but we could do so many things with it related to drones. So here I think that with my current position within IDEA, it will help me maybe with those traditional stakeholders, because I can then explain to them and show to them, I mean, we can do something with their infrastructure. We need to change, but we cannot just speak about growth and increase capacity. That will be another discussion.
Let me ask a quick follow-up question, maybe for you again, Francine. It's like, what about non-traditional players in this game, right? What about, for example, cities? Like, do you already see them coming at you and say, I don't know, I'm the city of Zurich, I'm the city of Geneva, and I have a need for aviation infrastructure beyond the airport. I need to do other things. And are you already engaging with them, or if not, do you plan to engage with them? How do you see this going forward?
Yes, it's a good question. So we are engaged with some of the cities and the cantons, the most advanced one, mainly two for now. So this is already happening, and yeah, we need to put like everything together. But this is already happening for the cantons and the cities that are more advanced and that already have a drone operation. I mean, Geneva, they are obviously interested because they have the United Nations, because they have the border with France. They have from a geographical point of view, a situation that they are already using drones, and they want to use it more and more in the future. So they are quite advanced. Zurich is another example, of course, a big city. They also see the value of drones for many things. So we are engaged with them. And this is really part of the equation in the future. All those non-traditional stakeholders that we will have to take into account, because their voice will be key for the future, and also for the acceptance of drones, like Alexandra mentioned a little bit earlier.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think I have the perfect question for Jackie, asked from Mohamed Ishaq. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, which is, what is your advice to someone who wants to start a business in drones? I would skip the laser scanning, it's a little bit too technical probably, but like you started it like from zero, and you mentioned I have 25 people. I'm helping companies around Australia. It seems like you are a flourishing business, right? So give us, what's the secret? I'm starting mine. I'm very curious to know as well, if you can share.
Do what you love. Just like follow your passion. But for the laser scanning or any business, you sort of, for that particular question, I start from the end. So really work out, obviously a drone is a tool. So really look at what you need to do, what data you need to collect, what sensor you're going to need, or what LiDAR or cameras or anything you're going to need. And then work backwards, like how far do you have to fly? Do you need to fly over people? Do you need to fly in a city? Because then you can look at what rules or qualifications and everything that you're going to need. And then look at what platform or tool is going to carry that sensor. I think the thing I didn't do very well at the beginning is value what you do and your knowledge. If you do have a background in scanning, things like that, and you now just want to use drones as that tool, just really value what you do know. So make sure you do charge your clients and like build that structure of business and reputation. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, show people what you're doing. I also think education, a lot of people that try to, a big part of why I always say to clients, like, why did you pick us over a very large company and things like that? They also said that we're very open and honest with what we do. So it's best to sort of, this is quite new to a lot of people. So it's also about educating, like, oh, this is how we're doing. You don't need to give your IP or your trade secrets away, but explain the process and how you're being safe. And also to help them, I guess, in their journey of integrating technology, because it's also new for your clients. That's probably my biggest recommendation.
It's very interesting. It's like, it's coming back to where we started about collaboration between industry and authority. Here is almost like collaboration between the new business and, and whoever this new business has to interact with. I think before it was probably more compartmentalized, right? And now you really have to interact more, right? There is more of an opening, trust, the need to be transparent. As you said, don't give away your IP, but welcome them to look into your business and say, hey, this is what it is, and this is what we are doing. So it's more of a conversation and engagement than just, this is my offer, right? Take it or leave it. Am I right with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. And collaboration is probably, I would say, one of the main things that's got us to where we do. We couldn't do everything. So we're always honest with our clients, but aligning ourselves with great industry partners was definitely helped us along our journey.
Thank you very much. Excellent. I think there's a nice question just popped in from Santiago again about the challenges in regards to cross-border operations, right? And cross-border operation linked with a high level of security, controlling cargo that drones are carrying, operators identifying and acting against the rogue drones. I think this is probably for Francine, and I would make it a little bit more generic. Like, how are we still at a local scale with drones, or do you already start to see cross-border operation, let's say area scale, like European scale or something like that? What's your experience in Switzerland with this? And maybe then, yeah.
Thanks. So we are still at the local scale, but of course, I mean, this question about the cross-border operation, I mean, popping. Since a couple of years, it's already in also the rules that the European Commission published like 2 years ago, and just entered into force end of last year. So it's a topic. There should be obviously like a discussion, negotiation between both the CAA on both sides. But for now, we don't have any, at least in Switzerland, we didn't have any like real operation like cross-border until now. But this is one of the topics, and for the cantons like Geneva, having this border with France and having the United Nations very close to the border, it's a big topic. So here, I think we need to tackle this. The good thing is that we already had some discussion with our friends from France. We have obviously a very good relationship with them, the big neighbor. So I think it won't, for the collaboration between the two CAAs, the civil aviation authorities, I don't see any issue. I think it will be in both interests, but we didn't have until now any real operation.
All right, thank you. And maybe one for you, Alex, from Simran Rora. She's asking, okay, maybe we are still local in terms of operations, right? But what about the ongoing efforts of authorities, and I would say also industry, to align the design and safety standard into something more universal, right? Are we looking, how is this harmonization effort going? And I think you are deep in the middle of it, so maybe you can spare a couple of minutes on it.
Well, it's easy. We are operating on 3 continents with 3 different concepts of operation because what regulators want is not fully aligned at the moment, unfortunately. I still believe, between Europe and Australia, it's SORA-based, so there's a lot of commonalities and there's a lot of things we can reuse. But we are still using visual observers in the US, when we really do not use visual observers anymore since a very long time in Australia, and our operations are very automatized. So I think we will arrive there, and standards will help. And so this is a little bit my battle as well. There's a lot of initiatives at standardization level. I've been really, since I started in September, but now that I'm even leading UK, I'm really closely working with RTCA, ASTM, ISO to not repeat or redo things. So that we are even working with SDSTAN on the open category thing. But now we have ways between UK and ASTM, for instance, to even exchange. So people being members of UK do not need to be members of ASTM. If within a group we want to check what ASTM is doing on another standard, we have access, and with Phil Kennel, we really work super well together. It's working like a charm. And so from my point of view, this will allow to the fact that European ASTM, for instance, so European and American are not trying to redo the same things, but looking at what the others are doing and just trying to apply whatever is coming from ASTM in Europe or what is coming from UK in the US will help standardize. I'm really convinced. So there's still a lot of discussion to happen with regulators in order to. I would love that everybody is using at least the SORA. It would be fantastic around the world. There's still a lot of work to be done, but slowly we are approaching. But in parallel at standardization level, I think there have been a wake-up call from the standardization bodies really to work together and trying to take benefit from one another in order that one standard can be used internationally. And this is going to help, I'm pretty sure, in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alex. We have 4 minutes left, and I wanted to ask one question to all of you. So you have 1 minute to answer. Very nice and clear. And it's the question from Sara Venditti, which is asking basically, do you personally have any female role models in the tech industry? So I would say, who wants to start?
I can start. And it's very easy. Alex is my model. So I think we worked many years together when she was at the EASA and me at FOCA, and it was always very inspiring discussion. Sometimes difficult, of course, but she brought a lot of knowledge also from her experience from the industry, and then with the Aviation Safety Agency. So yeah, I would say, I mean, you are really the one that came in my mind when I read that question. So
thanks.
Alex.
Thanks, Francine. What about you, Alex?
It's difficult. It's so nice to hear. It's funny because when I read the question, I was more thinking about more senior people, and I do not have, I was pushed by men, but I had in mind all the women colleagues who are inspiring me. And I've got a lot, and I think there's a complete new generation of people that I consider as my peers, and Francine is one of them, but I'm very glad to have to get to know Jackie, but I was hired by Margaret. I mean, there's so many women, and Julia is there. I mean, there's so many women now in this Esther with DroneTalks. I mean, so many women now, it's amazing. And I think, I hope we are all going to inspire men and women. Not
fantastic.
Only women.
Thank you very much. And Jackie?
Yeah, very similar answer to Alexandra. I really do sort of love those women that are connecting. I mean, I only get to meet a lot of people like Francine, Alexandra, through panels like this. So people that like Esther, and there's Dawn, there's a few people that put a lot of webinars together and things and connect these women. I sort of admire what they're doing.
Excellent.
Very short.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I would like to, bring this to a conclusion. I think we're going towards the end. So thank you very much to all of you, the speakers, and of course to all our guests for this very exciting webinar. The webinar will be available on demand for those who have missed it, or for those of you who want to watch it again. I'm sure, to get really the full understanding of what we have talked about, and it's going to be again available on demand on DroneTalks.online. And if you want to get engaged with us, please do that. You have our email address here, info@DroneTalks.online, and we are obviously looking for sponsors for our initiatives. For example, this webinar series, but many, many more. So don't be shy, reach out to us, let's get engaged and let's get this, conversation and this educational platform growing and going. So thank you very much again, everybody, and see you next time.